Hi, everyone. Welcome to John's Briefs. Back again with one of my very favorite expert witnesses, the co-director of the ASP instructor certification, owner of Carry Concealed, Carrie Dudenhofer, who is ridiculously qualified to do this stuff and qualified on a level that you got to get to know Carrie Dudenhofer. She's a genius. And I want to talk to her about how she prepared for and qualified to be an expert witness.
To win the fight after the fight, you need help. After a use of force, I trust Firearms Legal Protection to help me win the fight for the rest of my life. From their 24/7 attorney-answered hotline to coverage for the use of all legal tools, Firearms Legal Protection has you covered. Get a discount by signing up at the link below.
Carrie, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. That's a great question. I think I probably screwed that up on the intro there. But that is a great question. How do you get qualified to do it?
Well, now, first of all, how long have you been doing this?
Okay, so, my very first paid case was started in, I believe it's early 2021. I did consulting on a number of cases prior to that, but never took payment for them, or I was a backup to the backup. There was somebody that was far more qualified than I was to serve as an expert witness in some of those cases. And so I learned from them as they went through and would here and there help them with things and kind of spitball things back and forth to see what was going to work and, what wouldn't in the case. And by what would work and what wouldn't is, well, how do we think about this? And how do we think about that? And what else do we need to consider? So anyway, that's when I got my first paid for case. But how does somebody get started doing this? That's a great question. I don't even know if there's like a specific process that somebody's supposed to go through, which I think does make it a little confusing sometimes.
Okay, but I just want to back up here, right? Because you said, my first paid case was 2021. I want to ask you, where was your first firearms instructor certification?
I actually don't remember now. I think it was 2013. It was either 2013 or 2014.
Okay, so you spent 7 or 8 years as a qualified firearms instructor before you started taking cases. In those interim, how many hours of instruction did you have as a student?
Oh boy, I don't even know. Probably over 1,000 during those, 7 years. I'm just under 2,500 now. So, but I've gotten quite a few in the past 3 to 4 years. So.
Yeah, but not. I mean, if you took from 2021, that's 2 years, Carrie. You didn't have no 1,000 hours of training in the last 2 years.
Okay, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
So I'm gonna guess you took 2,000 hours of training in there because you're at over 2,400.
Yeah, that's probably about right. Yeah.
Now, listen, to put that in context for everyone. Okay, so I just want to put this in context for you. Okay, in context for you, I have one of the longest and most involved master's degrees that exist in America today. Okay, I have a master's of divinity in biblical communication, 96 credit hours, graduate credit hours that master's degree took. And that involved right at 1,400 hours in the classroom. Now, of course, that's not including studying papers, those kinds of things. Okay, so, all the writing and the research and the reading and those things is additional time. But that's what we're talking about here with class time too. We're not talking about all the reading and the research and all that stuff. We're talking about classroom learning and range time learning. And, so I'm creeping up on 1,500 hours now, and Carrie's about to lap me. And, again, talking about the leader of the pack. So why so much, Carrie? Why did you just go on a tear like this?
That's such a great question. I never intended to be. People ask me all the time, did you set out to be an expert witness? I never did. I didn't actually even know it was a thing. When I took Mag 40 for the first time, that's when I realized, being an expert witness is a thing. Gosh, you must have to be, 70 years old before you can do that to have enough experience, that kind of thing.
And so for those who aren't familiar, Mag 40 is the Masada U group. Masada U is signature class. It's a 40-hour class. 20 of it is in the classroom. 20 of it is on the range. And you'll get a little PTSD from us yelling at you in class in the best way possible. It's a fantastic education on the legalities of self-defense. I think it's probably after your CCW class, if you only ever took one class, Mag 40 would be right up there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that was an eye opener for you. Me too. I took mine. I think I took Mag 40 in 2017.
The reason I started taking so many classes, my poor husband, but after my first class, I wanted to understand, well, why does Ken Hackathorn say this? And why did Colonel Cooper say this? And why does Dave Spalding say that? And on and on and on. And so my husband was like, I don't know, but sounds like you better find out because you probably won't get a lot of sleep till you do. So I started reading as much as I could read, but then as soon as I could find a class, so I wanted to train with the greats because I think we live in the golden age of firearm training because we can go back still and train with most of them. The folks that were there at the early onset of this permitted from the state concealed carry permit, and as private citizens doing that, it happened for hundreds of years prior to that without any without a permit from the state. But anyway, so that's what it started. That's how it started. Is I wanted to go back and train with as many people as I could that were there in the beginning. And then that would just lead to, I would always ask, and I still do, any instructor I train with, I will ask, who should I train with next? Or what do you recommend for me? Because they've seen me for 2, 3, or 4, or 5 days on the line. And so they know where my holes are. And so that's helped me a ton because I found out about people I never would have known about otherwise. But I think what really starts you down the path is when you start doing the Deadly Force Instructor certification, the Force Science Institute stuff, anything through them that you can get in. It's only recently that they've allowed non-sworn into their classes. And I'm so thankful.
Gary, you realize how that happened, right?
No, I know you're like the first one, right?
I stuck my nose in the door and begged Dr. Lewinsky to let me in because they were doing it in Phoenix. And I was like, hey, if you know who I am, this is what I do. I analyze uses of force every day, including badge cams, and this would really help me. And it would help me do my job better. And so it was months, literally. I applied, you have to apply through their website. And then it was like a month and a half later, hey, I haven't heard anything back. And I got an email from the secretary that said, Dr. Lewinsky is considering your application and we'll get back to you. And then finally, it was like 3 months later, I finally heard, okay, you're approved, come on in. And then literally, I talked to Dr. Lewinsky at my class, which was here in Phoenix. I was the only non-sworn. There's like 75 cops and me, right? And so I just sat in the back, shut up, whatever. And I shook Dr. Lewinsky's hand. And I said, hey, Dr. Lewinsky, John Correa, I really appreciate you. And he goes, oh, I know who you are. And I was like, really? And he goes, oh yeah, John, we thoroughly looked into what you're doing. And I think you're doing good work. And I'm really glad you're here. And I was like, okay, that's humbling and also scary. And he's like, we've been thinking about should non-sworn be even in this program. And that was what took us so long, is to really kind of think about, are we only focused on law enforcement uses of force? But, we live in an age where we need some highly qualified non-sworn who are looking at this stuff. And so we're glad you're here. And
wow.
So as far as I know, I say this all the time, as far as I know, I was the first non-sworn to go through Force Science Institute certification.
I believe it. I got to tell you, I tell people all the time, I'm pretty sure the only reason I got in is because I had an active self-protection email address. I'm pretty sure without that, they would have been like, nope, reject. But I do get asked that a lot by police officers. So my dad was in law enforcement the whole time I was growing up. And so most of his friends are law enforcement, their kids who are our friends, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of the questions I get from police officers when they find out what I'm doing, a lot of them are detectives now, that sort of thing. But they'll say, well, what qualifies you to do this? How on earth can a civilian be qualified to give use of force testimony or have any input whatsoever in a civilian defensive use of force case? So that's kind of a different, matter of fact, one of the cases I had, one of the detectives was arguing with the, not with the judge, but through the prosecutor, arguing with the judge that he had done the same training I had done, but he did his in person and I had done mine online. And he was correct. I did my Force Science Institute training online. I was registered for the one in Dallas. And then a friend told me that they were offering the online program. And I thought, if they allow you to have that course forever and you can rewatch it, I would be a fool to go do it in person and I talked to so many people that had done it and said, well, you're sitting in a classroom or a big conference room and, you're not interacting a ton with people around you. So it's not one of these things where it's a skill that you need to learn how to do and physically manipulate, that sort of thing. So when I found out that you could have the course forever, I was like, I think it was like the first online course I ever did in this space. But I'm so thankful because I I'm not, you can ask my kids, they even know the names of the instructors on the online course because they see it all the time. If I'm vacuuming or washing dishes, I'm listening to one of the lectures from the Force Science Institute Force Analyst course.
Yeah,
So
great course.
anyway,
So you did a couple thousand hours of education, and also you're a very experienced firearms instructor.
I love teaching. I really do. I don't know what I enjoy so much about it. I probably should figure that out at some point. But that's one of the things about being an expert witness too. When at first I was like, I don't think I'm really qualified to do that. Actually, Mr. Moss is said it for science, or not for science. Sorry, it said it Deadly Force instructor class. He said, have you ever considered it? And I said, well, not until being here with you and learning all this now. And that was just in Phoenix in 2020. And he said, he said, if you teach firearms, he said, the role of an expert witness in this space is to educate. You're educating, first of all, your client and the attorneys that are working with them. And you might even be educating the prosecution team, and certainly educating the finder of fact if it gets that far. And that's when I really started to realize, well, maybe this is something I could do, and an area in which I could help. And he said, we need women in this space. We just don't have a lot of women that are doing this. And he said, they may offer a different perspective, not a better perspective at all, but just a different perspective. And maybe in some case, a man might reach a jury better or a finder of fact better. And in another case, a woman might reach the finder of fact better with their ability to explain it and that sort of thing. So that's how it came about, I guess.
Wow. So I think obviously then the thing is, Carrie is, if you look at her CV, I cackle when, Carrie, I'm going to tell on you a little bit here, Carrie, because Carrie has at least one time passed a case my way and said, oh, John, I asked these people to call you on an expert witness case, and you remember, what did I say? I'm like, you take it. What are you doing? Like,
that's what you said.
Calling me on this. And Carrie's like, well, because you're more qualified than I'm like, you are so qualified to take this case. Like, you take it, do the thing. And so, I ended up with a consult there. I know you ended up with a consult there. I don't think either one of us actually took that case in the long run, but sometimes for some of us, we struggle with imposter syndrome. I have seen the CVs of some people who have been admitted as experts, and I'm like, okay, I'm never going to worry about that again, because clearly some people get admitted with a resume that is far less than certainly what Carrie Dudenhofer has, less than mine too. So if somebody wanted to do that kind of work, Carrie, how would you suggest they get prepared?
Well, I know some fields like nursing and medical fields, they have specific courses that are designed for people that want to get involved in the legal side of as an expert witness work. I have a friend that's a nurse, and she took a course probably 10 years ago. She actually gave me the book for it, and I can see it on my bookshelf. It's all kinds of medical terms that I don't get, but it walks them through the process of how to become an expert witness in that field if they want to. So in this space, I would just say, to grow as much as you can, grow in your teaching abilities, grow in your communication skills, certainly grow in your training, get as, much training as you can possibly afford, and, continue training. And the more you learn, the more helpful I think it is as you're studying these cases and studying evidence and trying to make a decision. Because the hard part is it's you're talking about the rest of somebody's life, and that's kind of a tough place to be sometimes if you don't have a lot to stake that on. So
yeah. Step one of becoming an expert witness is become an expert. And that's not a beginner, right? Somebody with an NRA firearms instructor certification is great. I have no problem with those folks teaching firearms, teaching NRA courses as a firearms instructor. Maybe you then step up to the next level and you take range master or something like that you are more qualified, or 360, not 360, shootingperformance.com, Mike Seeklander and Rich Brown's firearms instructor development. And that makes you a more qualified firearms instructor. Great. I think, it's that, am I an expert firearms instructor? Am I a beginner? Am I a kind of moving out of that rookie stage and into the intermediate stage? You're not ready yet. It's that, nope, I've been doing this a while, and my background in doing it, and my background in understanding it, and my background in my educational background speaks for itself, that I have knowledge and skills and abilities here that the average person just doesn't have. That's when I think you're qualified to be an expert witness. And that's maybe a little bit subjective. There's in this industry, there's probably not like a boom, here's the standard. I would say honestly, you probably need to be Force Science Institute, Force Science Analyst certified if you're going to testify in use of force in America today. If you're not, you're going to get overridden by their expert who is Force Science Analyst certified. But like in the firearm space, those things, so be an expert first, right? And then you got to learn how to be a great expert witness report writer and how to do that very, very well. That's its own skill. You got to learn how to get admitted into court and how to teach attorneys how to get you admitted in court. And that's a skill in and of its own. And then you got to learn how to talk to a jury. And that is a skill in and of its own. So listen, it's not something you should take lightly, right? If when we're talking about, okay, if you're gonna make YouTube videos or you're gonna teach students on a line handgun skills, those are important things, right? So if you're teaching handgun skills, you're teaching people about the worst day of their life and how to protect their life. You start taking on expert witness work, now you're talking about the fight for the rest of their life and the whole rest of their life, not just their physical life, but their financial life, their social life, their emotional life. And so you got to take that stuff seriously. Carrie, though, I think we've scared people a bunch. Do you like it? Do you like the work?
Oh my goodness, I love it. I love it. Probably too much. And I can't. I mean, I did when I was a kid. I did want to be like a paralegal or something. So maybe it has something to do with that. I don't know, but I really I love learning about the process too. And every single one is totally and radically different as far as the discovery, how the discovery is organized, if it's organized at all, how you receive the case. Yeah, I see you feel my pain, right?
Oh,
My very first
I have a case that I've been working that is this huge case, and literally the discovery looks like it looks like a library that somebody like set a bomb off. It's just random stuff everywhere. And so I'm like trying to organize stuff and make my own files. I'm like, okay, this part is here and this stuff goes here. And like, I'm like, how long have you guys been working with this stuff? And so the funny part to me on that one is the paralegal I work with a lot, and she's great. And again, adult language coming in just a minute. And she says to me, she goes, John, man, I know this case is a shit show. I'm so sorry for inviting you to it. And I said to her, I was like, hey, listen, if it wasn't a shit show, you probably don't need an expert witness. If it was super easy and cut and dried, I said, a shit show is the only show I get invited to. Okay. So I'm used to it being crazy, but do me a favor, help me organize the crazy a little bit here. Okay. Yeah. So it is great. So I say this, I don't want to take a ton of expert witness work. My full-time job with active self-protection is enough, right? It's a 60-hour-a-week job, and a case just throws it into chaos. And so I'll do that once or twice, maybe 3 times a year. But like Stephanie and Laura, my wife, will not allow me to take more than that. They start beating me with a stick when I go, hey, I got another call on a case, and they're like, okay, I'm sorry.
But the sad thing is, who do you pass them off to, right? That's the part that I think is so hard is usually when they call, they are desperate. They don't, whether the expert they were going to use dropped at the last minute, or in the case I had, a gentleman had a severe medical emergency and could not continue on his
hired on a case where the previous expert died.
Yeah. And then what do? That's the part that's so hard. And I don't think it must not be easy to find a defensive use of force expert.
Well, maybe this is the time and the place to announce the fact that the Active Self-Protection Expert Witness Consortium has launched.
I like that.
So if you go to this is just a loose consortium of the best people in the industry that I know and trust, who I absolutely would stand behind, would hire in my self-defense case to be an expert witness, and who we help each other. So what the consortium is we've agreed to help one another, to consult one another if we have questions in our own cases, to share, hey, could you check this report, see what my logic looks like, see what my discovery reasonings look like, and to help one another with, and to pass cases too, if we can't take them. So some of my most trusted people possible. And guess who's on it? Carrie Dudenhofer is right there at the top. One of the most qualified in America. Next week, I'm going to jump her with another discussion here that she's not quite prepared for. but it's the kind of 800-pound gorilla in the room that nobody wants to talk about. So, hey, if you're thinking about being an expert witness, first become an expert, then think about preparing for the witness part. And that's going to take you some time, and make sure if you ever have to hire one that you hire a good one. Carrie, thanks so much for the time.
Thank you.